Six, a helping hand with your land.
Hey guys, Neil from Messick's here. Today we're reposting a video done by another YouTube channel. A gentleman by the name of Paul, the channel name of CountryCraziness, emailed me a couple months ago, and we did a little bit of an exchange back and forth with him asking some questions and me responding to them. I think the end video is actually really interesting. It was a really neat concept, so we're reposting that here for you today. And we'll put a link to Paul's channel down at the bottom if you'd like to check him out.
If you want to talk about Kubota tractors, well then you've come to the right place. Today, I've got Neil Messick, so stay tuned. Hi, this is Paul from CountryCraziness.com. If you're interested in tractors, post-frame construction, and homesteading, well, you've come to a good place. Why not subscribe, tap the bell, and join in the conversation? I've got Neil Messick with me today. I'm so thrilled to have him here. Neil's a big star on YouTube, and Neil, welcome today to Country Craziness.
Thanks for having me. I don't know if I'm ready for the big star title yet. I tell people that I'm known in a very small circle of people who are into compact tractors, but yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, before we get started, I have to tell everybody, trying to line up different people to talk about different brands of tractors can be a little bit frustrating. You contact people, some will say yes, some will say no, some don't even respond to you at all. I type out an email to Neil, and it seemed like I hit the enter button, and he sent me back an email and said, yeah, I'll do it. So it's really cool that you took the time to be here today. You handle Kubota and New Holland tractors. So everybody, next week we're going to be talking about New Holland tractors. So make sure you stop back and talk to Neil and I about New Holland. But today we're going to talk about Kubota. And before we talk about Kubota tractors in specifically, Neil, how important is the dealer compared to the brand of tractor?
So that's definitely a theme that you'll pick up on our YouTube videos, is that we obviously as a dealer like to think that we're important in this equation too. You definitely want some kind of a good mix between the dealer and the product that you're considering, right? A terrible tractor sold by a good dealer is probably still going to be a terrible tractor, and a good tractor sold by a terrible dealer very well could end up being a terrible transaction, right? You really need to have both of those things in concert in order to have good confidence that this is really going to be something that works out for you in the end. A lot of guys approach this buying process kind of like a car that tends to be pretty transactional, right? You buy the thing and you might not talk to them again for several years. In this business, it's a lot different. So we tend to see our customers, and they're back into the store for parts, or they're talking to us about an application that they've got coming up. They're in buying an attachment. So there's a lot more relationship that happens in this business than a lot of other purchases that you might make. And so you definitely want to be scouting that out, right? You're going to deal with the parts department, you're going to deal with service, you're going to see that salesman again more than likely, and you want to be building a relationship there that you can trust the people, that they're going to treat you well over the long term. So yeah, you definitely want to have both aspects of dealership and product working together.
You made a great video where you have a customer come in and you're walking him through different tractors and finding out what his requirements are. I think it's about a 25-minute video. I'm going to link that video down at the bottom so that everybody can take a look at that. If you're a newbie looking to buy a tractor, you really get a good idea of what you can expect a good dealer to do to try to treat you right and get you fitted into a tractor that's going to be a winner for you long term. Are there any features that Kubota has that you would consider best in class for small frame utility and compact tractors?
So there's one thing that I will say about this company that I think is really unique and leads to some best-in-class features, and that is that Kubota is a company that is really run by the engineers and not by a sales and marketing arm. These guys really care about their product and engineer their product in a way that I feel is pretty uncommon. They're also a lot more vertically integrated than what most other companies are. So you'll find a lot of heavy outsourcing done in the tractor industry to a variety of vendors, where Kubota has done the opposite. They really own most of the parts of their supply chain for both their tractors and their implements. It's all largely done in-house. And My experiences are that largely leads to better quality, and also just better processes. Like the process of taking a Kubota loader on and off of a tractor is the same as many other machines, except for the Swift Hatch, which is awesome. And those steps, for whatever reason, are just easier when you do them on a Kubota. It's quality control that just is not always seen when you pluck bits and pieces from all these other different companies. So that's cool. One very functional thing that I like a lot is the way they plumb their loader valves. For whatever reason it is, multiple functions on a Kubota loader are easier than just about most every other brand that you'll get onto. You could do lift and curls and that kind of stuff easier on a Kubota than you will do on other machines, and I don't know why it is that other people just can't seem to get to the level that these guys are with that. But yeah, a lot of care about the product, a lot of bringing things in-house. It's something that they do really, really well. It's a very compelling product.
I think a lot of people have the perception that you're going to pay more for a tractor that's orange or a tractor for green. Is that really true?
So I'm not going to speak to green, but speaking for orange, I generally find no, it's not true, actually. In my opinion, is Kubota could absolutely get more money for their product than what they choose to. People would pay a premium for this product, but they generally don't ask for it. By and large, if you go through and you look at, say, manufacturer list pricing, most tractors in this space are actually surprisingly close to each other when you're comparing apples to apples. And for whatever reason, Kubota has chosen to take the route of being very aggressively priced for the quality product that you're getting. So yeah, I just don't see that. You'll find all kinds of experiences out there. Different dealers could obviously swing pricing heavily one way or the other. We are a big part of the pricing equation too. A place like us sells a lot of volume, right? We survive on getting a lot of equipment out there in the field, and that relationship that we have with customers for parts and service and implements and those things over the long haul. So you'll see different dealer models and how they price their equipment. So you'll find all kinds of stories on the internet, all of which can be true, but coming from a guy who sits in this seat, when you're making an apples to apples comparison, you'll be really surprised how close in price tractors are to each other.
What do you think the most important thing is that I need to be doing between now and when I set foot on a dealer?
So the first thing that you should do is step foot at the dealer, right? One thing that I see a lot of is a guy spending too much time on the internet, right? Like, imagine that. You can over-research and over-analyze this and get yourself going in the wrong direction very, very easily, right? The guys that break out Excel and start lining up their tables of different models and what the different specifications are, I feel are oftentimes just missing the point and not necessarily going in the right direction. So I would start the process by going to a dealer's lot, meet a salesman, start a relationship, talk about some things out in the parking lot, see how big the tractors are, right? You wouldn't believe how often guys come in here and say, oh, that looks bigger than it did on the internet, right? Like, super, super common. So yeah, take that opportunity to get out, operate the machines, get in the seat, run them around, and start the relationship that way. Another thing to consider too is maybe even renting machine, right? Like, we rent a BX tractor loader backhoe for $165 a day, right? You could take that machine home, you can run it, you can get it dirty, you can spend some time with it on your property, and that small operational experience is going to tell you more than, you know, staring at glossy brochures for 4 hours ever would get to. So yeah, it's go out, meet people, talk to them, get dirty. That's the way to start to understand the equipment and really start to have that tractor experience rather than over-researching and over-analyzing your options.
You guys do some special things at Christmas time. Why don't you tell everybody about that and some of the charitable work that goes along with it?
When I was in high school and then even into college, I used to come home and park a couple tractors out along the highway here and put Christmas lights on them. Our main Elizabethtown store is located halfway between Harrisburg and Lancaster, Pennsylvania, on the main highway that runs between the two. So I have always, for years and years, put lights on tractors out along the road. That eventually progressed into doing simple animation. So my background is in IT, and I did animation controllers and stuff to do things like bales coming out of the back of a hay baler. It was about that time that we started noticing guys doing houses done to music and that kind of thing online, and one year we just decided, hey, we're going to try to work. So I have two younger brothers who both are much more musical than I am. We each bring different talents to this thing, and we build out this Christmas light show for work every year, and we'll be going into our 6th year of doing it now, I believe. We really didn't know what to expect the very first time that we put that out there, but it has been hugely received by the community, and people travel from as much as 2 hours, 3 hours away in order to come in and see the show. And we collect money just purely by donation. It's a free show. If you want to give, you can. From all the cars that come up our driveway in order to see it. It's staffed by volunteers here from our stores. And we raise generally around $50,000 each year for local charities that we support. So it's become a really cool thing for our dealership. We started doing it just because we thought it was fun, but it's definitely become a meaningful thing as far as the charitable portion of it goes. And it's a ton of work.
How do those companies that became part of New Holland, how does that all marry together?
So I am not a historian on the various tractor companies and the ways that they have all been merged and bought out over the years. New Holland, their corporate office is only about 35 minutes away from it, so it's a company that we represent well and are very connected with. They started as a hay tools company here locally, making hay balers, and some of the very first tieable, knottable hay balers is kind of their start to being in agriculture. They did come together with Ford that eventually, which brought tractors into the line, and then got married with Case underneath the CNH, Case New Holland umbrella. So today the two companies do offer a complete range from the biggest to the smallest of the tractors that you could buy for agriculture or hobby farm uses, as well as basically every other implement or specialty piece of equipment that you could need for a farm. So planters and self-propelled sprayers and harvesters and combines, you name it, CNH has got a product to meet your needs. And it is a global brand. We know them well here in the United States, but it's a company with large presences in a number of other countries. So it's a huge global company.
Does New Holland have any best-in-class features that somebody should take into consideration when they're shopping for tractors?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a big proponent of actually getting your rear end into the seat of said tractor and kind of feeling it out for you personally. Some of the things that will make New Hollands feel a little bit different than, say, the Kubotas that we also sell would be that their platform designs tend to be a little bit more open. It's usually a more spacious tractor around your feet. And part of that is because of the pedals. A lot of guys really get hung up on their pedal preferences, whether they like the toe heel design or the side-by-side pedals. We would have both options to be able to give somebody here. So New Holland uses that side-by-side pedal design that a number of other companies use. The market's split about 50-50 which way, but it can be a really polarizing thing. So here we've got the opportunity to put you in the seat of both tractors, and you can drive them around and buy what's more comfortable for you. Not something that you're going to be able to sit down and, without having that experience of getting in the seat, really know what's going to work best. Another thing that's a little unique about New Holland's tractor designs, if you look at their loaders, you're going to see they use one long continuous sweeping loader boom. That's a design attribute that they've carried back in here for probably the better part of 15 years now. The effect of that long sweeping boom is that the loader tends to sit just a little bit further away from the tractor than what a lot of other machines do. Now, if you spend an hour here talking about loader design, it's one of my favorite topics, but as your loader is a little further away from the tractor, you might lift a little bit less, but your trade-off there is visibility. So because the loader bucket's further away from the machine, it's easier to see. You've got better sight lines down to it, and it also is going to give you better lift height if you're going to, say, stack round bales. Remember, this is a company with an agricultural heritage. You need that lift height for a lot of those ag type applications, and so that tends to be how New Holland biases their machines. It tends to be towards that kind of work.
How about resale? How does a New Holland do on resale versus a Kubota?
So as long as you're dealing with a mainline equipment company, a very recognizable brand in your area, resale between these companies generally tends to be pretty consistent from one brand to the next. That does tend to change if you go off into the names that guys don't recognize or have questionable support. That's when you'll start to see resale taking a stronger hit.
I hear a lot that compact tractors that are of late model variety are in such high demand that there isn't a big difference in cost between a new one and a used one, especially if you take into consideration dealer incentives or things of that nature that might be going on at that particular time. What are your thoughts on that? Is there really that close a price, or is it something that you can shop for with a used tractor and find a good deal?
So you've hit the nail on the head there. So it really depends on the buyer and whether a particular tractor is going to make sense for them or not. So if you are a finance buyer, you're not going to write a check for a piece of equipment. New machines are going to come along with manufacturer subsidized financing. So say 060 is a really popular one. Where if we go into the used equipment side, you're not going to have those subsidized bought down rates available. So generally you're going to pay 6 to 8% to finance a piece of used equipment. The market for used compact tractors is completely out of whack. There is way more demand than what there is supply for these machines, and so they tend to bring fairly strong values. So if you're going to say, you know, save 15-20% off of a brand new tractor, but you're going to go finance it at 6 or 8%, you're going to wash out all of your savings from buying the used one in interest costs, and it does not make sense oftentimes to finance that, you know, 150 hour, 3-4 year old tractor that a lot of guys would like to have. Now, if you're a cash buyer, that might be a little bit different, right? That might make sense for you then to write a check for that particular machine. But you will see that a tractor that's a couple years old, that's in good condition, that's low hours, the really desirable ones are going to bring prices that are, you know, 20, 25, 30%. 30% is probably on the strong side, really, off of what a brand new one is going to be. And oftentimes for most guys, it's just not worth giving up a warranty and financing options and that kind of stuff to buy that machine. So for a used one to really make sense for me personally, it's got to be 10 years old, 1,000 hours, you know, have some wear and tear and that kind of stuff on it before it starts to depreciate to the right amount that I think it really makes sense on a broad basis for guys coming from the used market. And that's coming from somebody who buys used cars, right? Knowledge of the off-the-market depreciation that happens with cars, for some reason, it just, the economies that happen in the tractor business just aren't working that way. And for most people, my opinion is that buying new just is the right path forward most of the time.
Let me ask you a question with regard to service, and this would cover any tractor that you sell. I'm getting ready to buy the tractor and I don't want to haul it back and forth to the dealer, and I've got my first 50 hours or whatever the required service interval is. Is that type of service something that I can do myself as long as I document that I've changed the oil or do whatever maintenance is supposed to be done at that interval? How do you document that you've done that kind of work if you're able to do it yourself?
So documenting it isn't necessarily something that you have to be doing. If you're buying the parts from the dealership, we're going to have those things in the computer system, and if there's ever some kind of warrantable claim that needs that kind of documentation, you would be able to get it that way. You can also document it yourself if you like, scribble it down in your owner's manual. That's always a good thing to have. If you go to trade your tractor back in again, being able to show those things is going to give more confidence from the dealership in the work that was done to that tractor. But more often than not, we generally don't see companies going back and asking for proof of that kind of stuff when we're getting into warranty claims. Those kind of claims usually go hand in hand with some kind of oil analysis, actually, and by sending the oil into a lab, if they really want to know what happens to the engine, that's how they're going to figure it out, is by having the lab run the oil, and they can really tell a lot about the health of the engine at the time of a failure by getting that information. So yeah, many of our customers do choose to do their own service. It's a very, very common thing. We as a dealership very much cater to and support guys that are doing that kind of stuff. So we stock a lot of parts. We've got technicians to talk guys through things. We have service guys who are going to help you out. We very much cater to the, you know, guy who's doing his own work, because that's a lot of who our customers are and the people that are around us. We're in an agricultural area, and guys do that kind of stuff, right? At the same time, if you're not somebody who does, you know, we will provide whatever level of service it takes to get things done for you. So trucking something and running out and bringing it back is something that we absolutely can do.
But let's say that I've picked out a particular tractor and it was in stock. I negotiated a price. I decided, okay, today's the day I'm going to go in and buy it. And when I get there, the tractor's been sold to somebody else. How long does it take to get the tractor back in that I want? I don't know if it's like a car dealership where they bunch their orders together or they trade with other dealers for the tractor they want. What could my expectations be if that were a situation that occurred?
So we could probably do some really interesting videos about dealership logistics and how our supply chains work. Most of the time, a vast majority of our sales are filled with inventory that's coming off of our lot. So in our case, generally we're sitting on about 6 to 9 months of our retail needs are here. That doesn't mean that we necessarily never run out of things. We absolutely do. There's usually a product or two or an attachment or two that we're having a run on at the time and just don't have enough of. So that's going to fall back then to us getting things from the manufacturer. To get them at the best pricing available, they usually need to come in truckload quantities. A one-off shipment is always going to be a lot more expensive than getting things on in a truck, and the frequency of trucks is going to vary depending on the dealership that you're working with. So a large organization like us is going to receive trucks really frequently, so oftentimes we can get things added to those loads and brought in with a lot of extra expense. But right now, I'm waiting on a land pride post hole digger for 6 weeks right now, right? It's a unique model that not a lot are sold, with a special low flow motor on it that's going to be build to order, and it's going to take 6 weeks for it to get here. The bigger conversation too behind that also is not just the availability of the product, but it's how quickly does it take the dealership to get that tractor ready for you. And a lot of guys don't really understand the amount of work that happens on our part in customizing every tractor that we sell for the owner. So if we take, say, a tractor loader backhoe with a third function kit on the front and fluid in the back, like a fairly large but not unusual sale, that is 3 to 3.5 days of time in the shop for a mechanic to put all that together. And if we're talking April, May, June, when a lot of business is done and we get very, very busy, a backlog to get things through the setup department is really common. For us, we'll run 2 to 3 weeks a lot of time this time of year. And it reflects the seasonality of the business. Any dealership like ourselves, we can't staff for the peak because in the wintertime we get very slow. And so you have this kind of ebb and flow of business when things are backed up and when they're not. So yeah, there's supply availability side from the manufacturer, but also how busy the dealerships become when we are in season to meet that demand of getting somebody their new toy, right? Because guys take a long time to make this decision, but once they've made the choice of what they want it now. That's how we are, right? And we do our best to meet those expectations, but sometimes it's really challenging.
Again, I'm going to link your sites and some of my favorite episodes of YouTube things that you've done at the bottom of this one so people can link in. I hope everybody goes over there and checks out your site if they haven't been there already. And if they're in the Elizabethtown area, they go over to Messick's and buy a tractor. And again, thank you very much for coming in.
Glad to be here and talk to you. It was fun to get some different questions like this. If you guys are ever wondering about dealership operations, tractor products, that kind of stuff, always glad to come on and have conversations with you like this. So link to my YouTube channel should be around here somewhere. And hey, engage with these guys, chime in the comments below, let us know what things you're interested in. We're glad to talk. So my normal YouTube closing is if you're in the market for a tractor, we can help, or if you have any parts or service needs, we can reach out on. Give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messick's.com.